Well, hello everyone. I wanted to make this sort of a quick video. This one's going to be a bit more brief, and this is going to happen before I go into inheritance, because I figure it will probably be helpful to. For a lot of people, this is going to be just plain review and probably bore the hell out of you, but this isn't really aimed at you if that's the case. And so we're just going to make a new class called test class. And this one's actually just going to be an object. And this object is going to have a constructor. And that constructor is going to accept an int and a double. And so let's make it have a couple of class variables and say int, public int price and public double let's go with int is quantity and double is price. Okay, and this needs to be public, which is why that's giving me hell. Easier way to make constructors or anything, by the way. Right click, go to insert code, go to constructor, tick off both of those, and it generates your constructor for you. And that would be why, because I wasn't using anything and I just used a semicolon. My brain's fried after a long day. Give me a break. So anyways, we have our constructor built, so now it's going to take in those couple of things. Now, what I wanted to get to really quickly in this is what's known as implementing of interfaces. So an interface that's commonly, or well, almost always used is called Runnable. It makes your object runnable. And so when I implement Runnable, you'll immediately see that this is giving me hell for it right off the bat. So first thing I'm going to do is come back into my main and I'm going to make a test class, and I'm going to name it test equals new test class. Okay, and since I only have a constructor that takes an int and double, I'll say 1 and 2.5, since there's no default constructor for it. And so you're going to see that this is still erroring. Now that will make a thing that will, do whatever I want it to. But now, why do I want this to be runnable? So I'm going to make a quick little method in here, and I'm just going to name it output all vars. So we're going to do public static void. Actually, it doesn't need to be static. So public void. Actually, it might need to be static. Public void output vars. It's not going to take any arguments in, and it's just going to go system.out.println this dot quantity, and then on a new line it's just going to do the same thing, system.out.println this dot price. The this simply means that it's referring to the price that is inside of the object that's holding it. We don't need to be specific with this in this case. It's just there are times when you will run into it. Like right here, you see it being used to specify quantity is what we're feeding in. And so this dot quantity means that it's setting the object's quantity to that one. So that's kind of what this keyword means, and I'm just kind of in a habit of using it all the time. So in this case, all I want to have happen when I call out vars is for all my variables to be output quickly. And so we still haven't done anything with this implements runnable. So if I just do test.output outvars and I try to run this, I'm gonna get this and it says, oh, it's not runnable, and that has nothing to do with the fact that this won't work. If I actually remove implements runnable, that will actually run just fine. And so the question here is, well, why do I need implements runnable? And the answer is a little bit more confusing than you might think. Why did that not? implements. So let's say that I have a bunch of things. Let's say I have outvars. Let's say I have outvars multiplied by 2. And then I have a third one where they're multiplied by 3. And let's say I just have a bunch of object methods. I have a ton of them, right? Now, I can call them just like this. And I can do, mult2 and mult3 and but if I have enough of them and I'm doing the same thing every time with these variables, it's going to get, it's not going to be, pretty. It's just going to take up a lot of space in my code, and it's going to be cumbersome. So with the runnable, we're able to get around that. So again, let's remove the runnable here, and we'll give this a compile. And as you can see, I mean, it does what we want it to. And it's taking up 3 lines of code, which, I mean, 3 lines of code isn't terrible, but again, this can swell to be 50 methods, all with getters and setters, which I'm not sure if I've talked about, but I will soon, promise. So anyways, what a runnable is when you implement this. So then this error, when we examine it, says test class is not abstract and does not override abstract method run in java.lang.runnable. And now, to somebody who doesn't know what that means, it makes no sense. We'll be getting into abstract classes very soon, probably when I go over inheritance in another lesson or so. However, basically what that means is that I need a method called run, and it has to be a public void named run. That's all that means, is that I have to have run. It wants me to use an @ override annotation. Don't really need to. It gives me a warning as a result, but it's not a compiler warning, it's just an IDE warning, so we can just kind of disregard it, as that's a little bit out of the scope of what I'm covering here. So now, what we can do here that's kind of cool is we can just simply type outvars and that's not working because I didn't capitalize that V. Outvars mult2 let me kind of format this so it doesn't look like crap, and mult3 like that. And then if we go back to my testing.java over here, we can just change that to apparently I'm yelling it, test.run. Give that a run. You'll see that the output is exactly the same. So that's what a runnable does. It simply makes it so you can have this runnable interface, and it does have a lot of other advantages. And we're going to be getting into those when we get into multi-threading, which is going to be further out. But you can only multi-thread when you have a runnable interface. So if you don't implement that runnable, then you're not going to be able to break this down into parts as easily. And so it's a good idea, if you have things that kind of mesh together like this and break down nicely into parts, you should be using Runnable anyways, because your main file is much easier to debug when it's 2 lines long like this, as opposed to, 50, 60, 80. you know. So with that said, I'm going to wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys have a good idea on how to implement runnables. And I will stop with this now. Thank you.